John Osborne here. Let's do the FX Education Outlook for August 9th, 2017. Theme for today is look out for those hammers in the bearish markets that we're going to be looking at in a little bit. But let's start out by looking at the bullish markets. We have the dollar loonie. You can see a downward consolidation trend that's happened here. We broke above it and we're retesting it right now, so an opportunity to get in here. The problem with this entry though is that we're looking quite bearish still in our MACD, which means that we just don't have the momentum to push it forward, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. So what we want to see is a little bit of a turn up here before we jump in. We are looking plenty bullish in our daily though, and we're still bearish in our weekly because we just haven't had enough of a turnaround here yet. We're starting to turn up so far, so let's keep an eye on that one. We've got the dollar Swissy market. You can see we did break through the previous pivot supports here, and we went right down and touched this trend line right here a couple of times with our intraday bars, and we ended up with a bit of a big down day here, moving down to the midpoint of the Bollinger Band on the dailies. For the euro pound, we've got a little bit of a head and shoulders pattern happening here. Not the best, as I often don't get the greatest setups in head and shoulder patterns, but we are at the top of an uptrend, and we did put in a left shoulder. A head and a right shoulder is perhaps forming. If we can come down and get towards this support here at 0.89941, we could see a move lower, and it looks like we're looking bearish on our 240. We're still a little bullish on our daily, but we're starting to get a divergence, at least in our histogram. Signal, our signal line, or our white line here, looks pretty good, but that divergence and weakness is showing up in our histogram. Okay, we're still plenty bullish in our weekly. For the euro US dollar, we're watching to see if we can break through this trend line that's coming down here. This will be a consolidation trend line, and it also went down and touched its previous trend line down here to retest, did a bounce back up to the midpoint of the Bollinger Band, and then we're back down to previous pivots. For the Aussie US dollar, you can see we are moving lower and actually breaking below this previous pivot here. So this one we're going to start to consider moving into our pending bearish category. So we're going to go ahead and slide that down and put that in there, and that'll get us an eye out to see if we can get a move below that 0.78742 for potential short entry. We've got the Kiwi yen. That one has been moving down pretty nicely, and this is where we start to see those hammers. So right here we have a hammer. The problem is this hammer doesn't have a body that is closing higher than it opened, and that's not as strong as what we see when we have a green candle, which would be when the close is higher than the open. So let's see what happens here. But we did get a long wick, and that sometimes indicates a reversal. However, look how bearish we are in the daily, and we're only getting a little bit of an uptick here on the 240. So we are breaking lower. It looks like it might just ignore this hammer and move lower, but let's see what happens. Put on pause for a little bit there. Same thing, we got a red hammer anyways at the pound, under the pound yen daily. Let's see if it will come down and approach this trend line that we have here. For the Aussie yen, same thing, although it's not quite a hammer because the body's bigger, but we still had that long wick, and we are getting the pullback that was causing that. This is still recovering and retesting a little bit as it went down to touch the 200 bar weekly moving average. And for the pound dollar, you can see that this consolidation trend line gives us an opportunity for a potential entry, and that would be on a break of about 1.29753, and we are getting a little bit of divergence here, although it's kind of weak. That would be bearish divergence, but let's see if it needs to break through this line here, and we want to see it break through with some strength. And an even safer bet would be to wait till we can break through the 1.29319. Okay, and you can see also we're still staying above this previous pivot here on the weekly. In our consolidating portfolios, we've got the pound loonie. You can see we just are consolidating here, but the US dollar yen did break out of this little bit of a consolidation channel enough to hit target, and it's still bouncing back up in there. So let's see if we can find a new entry as a bearish entry on a break below that 109.617 that we have there. And that'll do it for today. Remember, you can subscribe by clicking on my image, and you can look at previous recordings by clicking in the images in the upper left. Until next time, have a great rest of your day.